sure we're on the right profile, even though I knew we were because I last recorded it on Sunday for WrestleMania. But you know me, that doesn't mean shit. I am your host, as always, Chad Porto, and joining me is the Zack Attack himself, the Mr. Marvelous Maisel himself. I don't know, that was terrible. He's Zachary Tyler Pew Pew Duncan. Pew Pew is short for Pupaurus Pupetimus. He's also part dinosaur people. That's right, he's a catch. Gotta catch 'em all, Zakimon. Polka Dunkins. Ooh. That's the name of their donut place in Pokemon Worlds. Polka Dunkins. Get your
rice squares here.
Your rice squares. Get your Charmander claws here. Because it's like a bear claw, but it's a Charmander.
Yeah, I
shut up.
Gotcha. You're just throwing anything at the wall with these nicknames now, aren't you?
I mean, essentially. I mean, that's what I've always been doing. I called you Pew Pew once. Like, how did you think my process worked?
I mean, that's fair. It's just typically you seem to have more success.
Typically, you seem to have. I got nothing. God damn it. Shit. It must be the 32nd of each month. This day has finally arrived. So we're talking Impact, but before we do, I need to ask, you used to be a big WWE fan. Did you watch the Wrestle of the Mania?
No, I didn't.
You didn't even watch the Taker AJ Styles match?
I haven't, though I've heard decent things about it, so I might check that out.
If you liked the Broken Universe stuff in Impact, you'll like it. If you didn't, you won't.
That's what it sounded like they kind of did. I'm hoping that the cinematics are of a little higher caliber, but let's see.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know exactly how much higher quality you can get. I don't think they necessarily got to that certain point because it definitely didn't look like, a movie.
Right, obs.
But it was like, I wasn't a fan of it, but even I'll admit that it looked good. It looked like they were trying something. It looked kind of like a cross between Law and Order SVU Season 3 and a modern-day reality show. So, like, that's kind of the barometer in which you're operating in.
Describe Law and Order SVU Season 3 to me.
Very grainy and devoid of color.
I see.
I'm not going to make that joke. I'm not going to make that joke. Even I'm not that stupid. So let's talk Impacto Wrestling. Before we do it, let's talk about a little bit of Impacto Wrestling news. So apparently, you might have heard that there's this thing going around called the Rona. Dun, 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 dun. My Corona. It's shutting some things down.
Yeah, should be shutting down.
Except for us. You and I are still working.
It sucks.
Like Ralphie on the back of the school bus. We're essential.
I mean, it doesn't actually suck because, we're still getting paid.
True that. Except I get paid
at the same time, it's like I expected to have, less shit to do every day, but I feel like I have more now.
I am definitely doing more work in my every day. I am literally wiping down anything I bring into my house. I'm that guy. But I get paid per page view, and right now with sports news and games not kind of happening, there's less traffic. And I'm kind of just like, getting very angry over here. Y'all need to go back to reading sports articles. I'm giving you plenty of information or infotainment in order to hate me, so you can continue to hate read me. But listen, you got to come and read before you can hate read. I learned that on Reading Rainbow. It's in a book. Just take a look. You're gonna hate it. This writer's a big dumbass. So, things are canceled, closed, shut down, locked in fora. That's actually the name of a sports anchor. And so WrestleMania, AEW, they're still going on, but they're doing some roundabouts to get away with it. And I'm like, well, they're getting a lot of shit, but at least it's just those two companies. Oh wait, by the way, allegedly, Impact Wrestling intends on doing the same thing. Oh, that's fine, I guess. So I don't remember where the exact location is. I think it may have been Nashville. But Impact will be taping about 3 to 5, maybe 6 weeks worth of tapings in a closed door situation.
Yeah.
No fans. And apparently the Rebellion pay-per-view, which was supposed to be in New York, that was canceled, will now air as a televised special on Access TV, and it will be part of the tapings, allegedly. So with all that kind of out there, what's your kind of takeaway with this whole situation now that that Impact is planning on taping things?
I'm not all that surprised because WWE's doing it, AEW's doing it. It's one of those things where like I understand them wanting to keep taping because if you're not taping, then you're not making money, essentially, and you're not paying your wrestlers and all this stuff. So I get it. It's not something that I don't necessarily condone what's going on with them still taping things. Like I appreciate that you're having closed arenas, no fans, yada yada yada. But it's not, it's not. It's probably not. I mean, it's not probably. It's not the best idea for the wrestlers because, I mean, hopefully they're getting the wrestlers tested. Just because they're not showing symptoms doesn't mean they're not carrying it. And if you're wrestling someone, then and they do have it, then there's no way you're not going to get it yourself. So it's kind of a like, I understand it, and I'm not completely against it, but I'm not completely for it either.
Zach tested positive for dooferitis. There's nothing he can do. He's going to be a doofus for the rest of his life. I've tested positive 6 times for jackassitis. Every time it clears up, it comes back.
Almost instantly.
Right? It's almost like it's part of my inner soul. I don't know. So according to P11 Mania, by way of PW Insider, new details are coming out of about the Impact. We're going to start over. New details are coming out about Impact Wrestling's plan to tape several weeks of TV. That actually says episodes. I read ahead. New details are coming out about Impact Wrestling's plan to tape several episodes of TV this week amid the COVID-19 pandemic. As previously reported, the company is planning to tape several weeks' worth of episodes from their studios in Nashville, Tennessee, to air on Access TV. According to PW Insider, Impact is able to do this because the executive order issued by Tennessee Governor Bill Lee called for all restaurants, bars, and other related businesses shut down, as well as gyms, fitness centers, and other businesses that have foot traffic. Impact's use of a professional studio means that it is not a location accessible to the general public. The executive order also exempts material created for media, including TV, and Impact's taping falls under the exemption by virtue of being on a closed set without audience members. The site notes that similar to AEW and WWE tapings, there is a medical unit set up to have talent and staff undergo testing before they're allowed on set. Social distancing is being used at all times, except in situations where talents have to physically interact with for filmed content. Participation in the tapings is voluntary. Impact reportedly created their taping guidelines by using all CDC-suggested guidelines, as well as the Department of Homeland Security's guidance on the essential critical infrastructure workforce, ensuring community and national resilience in COVID-19 response. That is an official title. I'm gonna read it again because it's literally it's 3 lines and it's a goddamn title. The Department of Homeland Security's guidance on the essential critical infrastructure workforce, ensuring community and national resilience in COVID-19 response. That's like 20 words.
That's not a title. That's a paragraph.
That's not a title. That's the preamble of a book. So they are being tested. At least that's what's being leaked. I mean, if I'm gonna have my wrestlers show up, I'm gonna tell people they're gonna be tested too. I don't know if they're going to be, but I'm telling people they're gonna be. I would hope that that's not the case for Impact. I would hope that the more and company are like, yeah, we're actually gonna have them tested because we're not complete and total shitheels. But also that brings up the question of, that's gonna be, for the sake of argument, 100 and 110 types or different tests, give or take, for the wrestlers and the crew and the staff and all that. Granted, it's kind of like, here's the thing. The people who need to be tested are the people who are already sick. And the people who are already sick don't need to be tested because they're already sick. It's like, sir, we should probably test to see if you have a giant 2x4 in your head. They look and there's a giant 2x4 in his head. I don't think we need a test for that. I think it's right there. So, I understand why they would be tested and maybe not others, but I also understand why some people may have a issue with healthy people being tested when there are people who maybe need it more. But I don't know. I'm with you, Zach. I'm not a big fan of the idea, but I also didn't come down extremely hard on the WWE or AEW about doing it.
Yeah.
And with it being now closer to the peak of the virus, as to say, 2 weeks ago when WrestleMania was filmed, I don't think it's necessarily the worst kind of situation to do it now. But I also, again, we said this before, there's no harm in saying, hey, we're going to hit the peak of this in 2 weeks. We don't need to rush anything. We can do 2 weeks of filler episodes. Maybe air a lot of explosion matches that you haven't aired yet. Instead, do some type of studio setup. And then in 2 weeks after the peak hits, then you go and start taping. But that's just kind of my thought process. It might be one of those situations where they're sitting there thinking that it doesn't matter if we get 6 weeks of footage or 2 weeks of footage or however we do this, because we don't see this calming down in 6 weeks. So there's no difference between if we do it now or in 6 weeks. So right. I understand that kind of methodology, that kind of if things aren't going to be, incredibly better in a handful of weeks, what's the difference? But I do think that waiting until after the peak is the better idea. But then again, I'm not the one running this company. So no matter how many times I send the application in, no matter how many times they send back the restraining order, I still don't run the company. Maybe one day. As soon as they release that restraining order, I'm getting that job. And the fact that it's voluntary is great. And here's the thing. Demore and Don Callis have really earned, I think, a lot of leeway. When I hear the WWE say, well, it's voluntary. I'm like, yeah, voluntary. Like the concentration camps were voluntary. I don't buy it. It's like a book without a cover. I ain't buying it. But with Impact, I feel like they have a lot more credibility with the current structure. There's too many people on this roster who are more than willing to dog someone. Jordan Grace, Ethan Page. That I feel like if there wasn't a lot of truth and substance to the words of the company, we would know about it. Think about it. In 3 years since they've taken over, the only real controversies they've had were signing Elgin, who's been nothing but a model wrestler for them, and signing or putting the belt on Tessa, and that's for a litany of reasons. And those are and think about that. Think about that. people were mad that Elgin was signed to a contract, despite him not actually committing any not federal, but felonies that we're aware of. And Tessa, whose biggest, if you will, faux pas was allegedly using a derogatory language in a situation that no one who's actually accused her of saying anything was there to witness. So, compare that to, Bubba the Love Sponge and Awesome Kong getting into a fight backstage. Compared to Jeff Hardy coming out high as hell. Compared to Jeff Jarrett going full Monty and Kurt's wife. He pounced her is what I'm saying.
Of course, Monty Brown.
Right. Think
the
about...
next big thing if he had stuck around.
Exactly. Like, think about that. Think about all those instances where there's been some truly horrible things going on in this company. I feel like the negatives have fallen by the wayside. So I feel like with the way D'Amore and Callis are running this company, I do believe that if they say it's voluntary, I do believe it's voluntary. And I do believe that the wrestlers will think it's voluntary as well. I hope that no one feels pressure to go and do this. But here's also the other thing. Whether they're pressuring them or not, there's going to be an inherent desire for a lot of these guys to go. One, because it's a psychological thing. You get an opportunity to go work. You get an opportunity to hang around people. Maybe you're single. Maybe this is how you meet new people. Maybe this is how you date. But on the other side of things, it's also an opportunity for them to make money. Not everyone can have an OnlyFans account. I may or may not be referencing a current Impact wrestler when I say that. I don't know. Everyone seems to have an OnlyFans account. I have an OnlyFans account. It's just pictures of a stuffed animal's butt. So, you do with it as you will. It's a monkey butt. It's clothed. It's in a Jedi robe. But it's just posture. It got a lot of views. I don't know why. Got a lot of subscribers for that. Fucking furries. You're all fucking animals. Which is a double entendre, so it's even funnier. That one's going to land, Zach, and when it does, you're going to think it's hilarious. Furries. You're all fucking animals. Double entendre. There it is.
I gotcha.
I had to walk it in, but I eventually landed the plane. All right, so with that being said, let's get to this week's episode. We open up with a handicap-a-roni match. Sorry. A handy-capable match. With Willie Mack taking on the Reno Scum. Mack somehow gets the win. Pins Luster the Legend. So that made me sad because, me and how I feel about the Reno Scum.
Mm-hmm,
but then the Ace...
Good for Willie.
Go for Willie. It puts Willie over. It builds
Yes.
Willie up nicely, and with him now having an X Division title shot at Rebellion, wherever that may be, whenever that may occur, that's a big win. Shows that he can handle strenuous odds. Ace Austin comes down. He's all like, what? He's part of the Ace Hop committee. God damn it, I couldn't do it. Ace Hop Keto circuit.
Mm.
Damn you! You gave him all the easy ones. He takes down Willie Mack, and then Willie Mack's like, that hurt. And Ace's like, no shit. So, match is set up. What do you think of the match and the eventual announcement of Ace Austin versus Willie Mack for the X Division Championship? Oh, and the little caveat that they're like, we keep trying to find tag team partners for Willie Mack, and he keeps saying nah. So that's pretty cool. Thoughts on all of that?
Yeah, I mean, I dug the match. I dug Willie getting the win because Willie Mack needs a win, especially going into a week. I, for one, actually hope he wins the X Division title, personally. Mack needs some gold.
I'm right there with you. I too would like to see Willie Mack win the X Division title. My only concern is that Ace Austin's first title run has not been that meaningful. It hasn't been that impressive. I haven't walked away thinking, wow, he's had a really good run. And my concern is if you move the belt from Austin to Mack while that kind of atmosphere still surrounds Ace Austin, it'll be so much harder to get him back over once he loses it. That's my only concern. But as far as the right person to hold the title, it is Willie Mack because he's the closest thing to Samoa Joe you're going to have in some time. And it makes sense to have someone who can be that dynamic, that engaging, that popular, that noted, being involved in Impact as the X Division champion. Plus, I think he's still a House of Hardcore TV champion. So, like, I don't know. That'd be kind of cool. Someone ask Tommy. Someone ask Tommy who's got the belt. I know it's not Stevie Richards. That's a little joke about Extreme Rising. You don't even remember that promotion, do you?
Nope.
Shane Douglas used to have his own ECW offshoot. Like both Tommy Dreamer and Shane Douglas launched the promotions in 2012 or 2011. And Shane Douglas brought in Jay Bradley and Sabu and the Sandman and all that, while Tommy Dreamer went and got a bunch of ex-ECW guys on his own, like Nunzio and all them. Plus, he had like MVP and Sammy Callahan before he became Solomon Crow in NXT. But, House of Hardcore is still around today as kind of like a super indie, while Extreme Rising lasted like 7 months. So, there you go. Anyway, so we'll see what happens with the X Division title. We get a great little segment with Kylie Rae. She is adorable. She came in, she's all like wavy and flappy and loosey-goosey and all that. And she walks in, she's Gail Kim, and she freaks the fuck out. I get it. Then she sees Susie, and she and Susie have this little adorable, like, I like your headband, I like your headband. And then Kiera Hogan's like, y'all are some dumb bitches. And Susie's like, that's not nice. And she holds up the little finger cross. I'm like, oh my God, this is adorable. So that sets up Susie versus Kiera Hogan for later in the night. What's your thoughts on the proceedings? We're going to get Kiera Hogan versus Kylie Rae at Rebellion. We also got, Kylie Rae's getting a lot more airtime, so it's a pretty big sign that they have big hopes for the Kylie. What's your thoughts on the whole situation?
I immediately like the pairing of Kylie and Susie. I think them together as a pairing would be fantastic because normally they're both very, they're both very cute, very happy, very perky. But then you piss them off and then they go apeshit on you. So they both kind of have the same kind of dynamic going on. Susie obviously is a little more extreme, where Kylie is a little more subtle about it. But I like that. I like that pairing. I perceive. That's not a word, is it? Fuck, I'm tired.
No, Percy's a name, though.
Percy. Percy Pringle.
You perceive.
Yes, I perceive.
There it is.
Perceive.
Not Percy.
That Percy. Yeah. Well, the match with Kira is gonna be good, and I agree. I feel like they definitely have some. They're putting a lot of stock in Kylie very, very early on. It's pretty obvious.
I don't think it's the wrong idea either, because she is someone who is very marketable.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to be, the caveman, ooga, ooga, ooga. But when you look at someone like Bayley and you look at someone like Kylie's a lot more attractive, at least in the conventional sense.
Yeah.
That's a very marketable thing. I know a lot of people are like, that's offensive. Well, if John Cena looked like Otis, John Cena wouldn't have had 16 title reigns. If Kurt Angle looked like the ass end of a donkey, wouldn't have been the guy pushed to the moon. Just saying.
Yeah. I mean that's how this shit works, man.
Looks matter. The Rock didn't get the opportunity to do what he did because he talked as well as he did. Because if he did, it would have been the Road Dogg versus The Rock at all those WrestleManias. And it damn sure wasn't because The Rock was the most athletic person on the roster either, because he wasn't. You had literal Olympians on the roster. during The Rock's tenure. No, The Rock got pushed because he's a handsome man. Stone Cold got pushed because he looks like a fucking redneck.
And that's who they were catering to at the time.
Sometimes it doesn't make any sense. I'm just saying.
Sometimes it doesn't, but Stone Cold was the everyman that
Yes.
people were like, this. He's fighting the corporate machine. I can get behind this guy.
They didn't call Shawn Michaels the intelligent boy. I'm just a smarty pants. Smarty pants. I do the Pythagorean dance. Pythagorean dance. I need to make this into a whole song now. Show's over. I have work to do. So yeah, Kylie Ray is very attractive. She's very bubbly. She's very marketable. She's very fun. She's very personable. And she's kind of, and I'm going to explain why here in a second I say this, but she's the antithesis to what Tessa Blanchard is. Tessa has an image problem that has gone on long before the whole may or may not have used a racial epithet. Tessa doesn't come off as very likable, extremely talented, good looking, fit as a fiddle, dynamic worker. You hit 4 of the 5 big old check marks that you're looking for when you're looking for your 5-tool player. Only problem is she doesn't check the likability box because Tessa comes off as very brazen, very brash, very arrogant, very ignorant. Considering some of the stories about her, I'm not surprised. Then again, CM Punk called Brock Lesnar a sweetheart, so I don't know. The world just doesn't make any sense right now. Shit doesn't make any sense at all. I'm confused by everything. So I think Kylie Ray
just messing with her head.
I want to say that's the case, but he actually said it in a context that made sense. Punk was talking about when he was going into MMA, Brock was reaching out to him like, if you got any questions, if you need any help, let me know. And Punk's like, he didn't need to do that. And I'm just like, I don't think that. And Brock's probably sitting there in Canada going, I never said that. I fucking hate you. For all we know, that's exactly what he's saying. Maybe Punk's just trolling people. Punk's last name is Punk, after all.
Well, if he did do it, then you know what? Good on you, Brock.
Right?
If he didn't, you know what? Good on you, Punk.
Right? Either way, one of you guys is looking pretty good at the moment. So Kylie Ray's got all sorts of marketability and hype around her, and I feel like unlike Bayley, who as an athlete, she's non-existent. I've never thought Bayley was athletic in the slightest. She's not put together in a way that makes you scream she's a fighter. Like, you look at someone like Dana Brooke. Dana Brooke maybe has a vertical leap the size of a gerbil, for all I know. But she's bulky, she's muscular, she's thick. Like, maybe not, but maybe she could rip like a phone book in half. I don't know. She looks like it. Bayley looks like she just came out of the crowd. She looks like she's on a Peloton for 6 hours a day. Like, that's it. Like, you're a Peloton rider. But Kylie actually looks like an athlete. So I think, the comparison between Bayley and Kylie Ray, which is going to be a comparison you're going to hear a lot of, because they have very similar gimmicks, or at least had very similar gimmicks back when Bayley was a face. But Kylie's a lot more marketable. Now, will that translate into big dollars for Impact Wrestling? Who knows? I'm not even sure they can make merchandise with Kylie Ray wearing her gear, because I'm pretty sure she's wearing a goddamn Pikachu gear. So I'm pretty sure you can't use that. Do that or SpongeBob. I haven't decided which ones yet. Well, I told you last week it was the character from Drawn Together.
Yeah, you did say that.
So who knows? But anyway, I'm looking forward to Kira and Kylie, because I think this is going to be one of Kira's lone pay-per-view one-on-one matches. Excuse me, in a long time. I'm counting all like the Impact Plus and Twitch stuff too. So, I mean, she's going to lose, but it'll be nice to see her. So I think we're starting to see the buildings of a great X Division. Chris Bay and Daga had a great match on Impact, with Bay getting a clean upset win over Daga Richards. I'm always impressed whenever I see Daga that he's always gotten rid of all those awful Davey Richard tattoos that he had back, when he was Davey Richards. I will never not unsee Daga and Davey Richards as the same person. Never. What did you think of the Bay Daga match, and did you agree with Chris Bay going over?
I agree with Bay going over because again, you bring the the hot quote unquote free agent in or whatever, and you want to put him over. You don't want to bring him in, with a reasonable amount of hype around it and have him just start losing. The problem though is that Daga, while his in-ring work has been impressive, he hasn't had a lot of wins under his belt since he came in. So, and I feel like I can't put my fingers on all the people, but I feel like that's kind of happening. That's kind of happened a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Is that there's just new talent coming in all the time. So some of the talent that's still somewhat fresh gets kind of pushed off to the side and doesn't get a good push when they after the first few months.
I think, I mean, you nailed it. I think you're exactly right. That is a big issue. I wonder sometimes if someone like Dago, who's very active still in Mexico, I wonder if some of this has to do with the fact that he's not wrestling exclusively with Impact. So instead of putting him out there and having him win so he could maybe leave after they did all this to build him up, they're using someone like Chris Bay, who did sign essentially an exclusive deal. Like he's still allowed to work indie dates, but Bay's with Impact for at least 3 years. Assuming he signed a standard length contract. Maybe that might be why Bay's going over on Daga. But I think one of the things that should also be a point of contention for Impact as a whole is getting a third, or not a third hour, but a second show for a third hour of content each week where you can have Chris Bay versus a jobber, Daga versus a jobber, Triple XL versus a jobber. And really start to establish these guys as top tier, or at least potential top tier competitors, and then bring them over to the main show. And then you can swap out guys who may be on a bit of a skid, put them on this explosion show or whatever you want to call it, have them work there. But that's got to happen in order to keep guys fresh. Because as a kid watching WCW, I bring this up all the time because when I started watching WCW, they had 3 shows. They had Thunder, Nitro, they had Saturday Night. So they always had multiple shows, and they always kind of had the opportunity for guys to kind of go over and get, their wins somehow, some way. Booker T may have lost to Scott Steiner on Nitro, but on Thunder he beats Scott Norton, and then on Saturday Night he's beaten up on Horace. Okay, so Scott Steiner's all the way up here, Booker's right below him then. And as a kid, that's how I would compartmentalize it. You do that, you start to showcase, like, all right, maybe Daga and Chris Bay can exchange wins, but both Daga and Chris Bay are beating up on Rohit Raju or Mahabali Shera, or maybe both guys run into Rhino and Rhino beats both guys. It helps set the mental hierarchy on where these guys should be. It's like the NBA. They have the official NBA standings every week or every day. You just go and see who's winning and where they're at. And then you also have like a power rankings for all the teams and stuff. That's the kind of stuff I think wrestling is missing out on, because it tells you, hey, Rhino's on a 4 win streak. He's beaten Bay, Daga, and Tessa with a loss to Hornswoggle somehow. So he's number 3 in the company. Then you got Tessa's number 2. She just lost to the tag team. And then somehow, just out of fucking nowhere, Raj Singh's number 1. I think he fucking rigged the goddamn situation. I don't know. But
where the fuck has Raj been?
I don't know. But I meant to say Gama, but it worked either way. Gama's currently undefeated. But like,
true.
But like that would kind of help put things in perspective, and you wouldn't need to do a lot of work, and it's a nice 90 120 seconds you can put into your show every week where you're not relying on a fucking 7-minute match from 2011. Ooh, the Young Bucks were in a cage match at Lockdown. I don't care. If I wanted to watch Lockdown 2011, I'd be watching Lockdown 2011, not Impact 2012. Just throwing that one out there, guys. Then we get a great segment of Taya beating up Johnny Bravo with a steel chair. He's in his little Giants gear, which I thought was adorable. and he's holding this little Pomeranian stuffy. It's fantastic. Taya is not having any of this shit, and apparently it's announced that Taya and Jordan Grace are going to have a Full Metal Mayhem match, which is stairs, chairs, ladders, and tables.
Yes, because I was definitely thinking tables because I remember doing like a tables, ladders, chairs, and stairs joke before.
Yes. A TLCS. Oh, you're funny. You're funny like Mr. X roaming the halls of the RPD. RCPD. God damn it, shut up. So that was funny as shit. Then we get maybe the best Treehouse segment of all time. What do you think of the Taya smashing the Johnny?
Taya smashing Johnny was great. It occurred to me at this moment that we haven't seen Jordan in 2-3 weeks.
Oh no.
Oh no.
Oh no.
It's him.
Oh no.
Oh no.
Fucking
It is that old mentality I have that's like, if you're the champion, you may not wrestle, but you should still kind of be around.
Part of me thinks that maybe Jordan got hurt.
It's possible.
I think, because you're right. I don't remember the last Jordan Gray segment. Turns out I don't really miss her.
Yeah.
It's not exactly a strong endorsement to her run. So we get the Treehouse segment, which is fantastic. It's the Rascals, and they all invited a tag team. Dez invited the Deaners, who are bringing the stuff. This upsets Wentz because Wentz has invited Falaba and TJP because they got the food. Trey's extremely upset. He demands that they both, cancel their invitees and to remember that no one's allowed in the Treehouse but them. And he invited Triple XL. And that was the bet. He's like, you guys know that no one's allowed in the Treehouse but us. And I invited Triple XL. So they all come in. The Diener stuff ends up being beer, which amuses Wentz. It does not amuse Dez. And Dez, in fact, scolds them. You're embarrassing me. Then Falaba and TJP show up, and they have something. It looks like lemon squares or cornbread. But whatever it is, it's not very good, as no one seems to want to eat it, except for Triple XL, who sit down and squash Trey. This is fantastic. Yeah. It gives each tag... What's brilliant about this is it gives all 4 tag teams a brief snippet of who they are. Triple XL are big bullies who don't care. Maybe they're nice, but they're still big bullies. TJP and Falaba are a little bit aloof, especially Falaba. He likes to make food for people. He's trying to be their friend. TJP is also just kind of being TJP. Lacking charisma.
Yeah.
Then the Deaners may have been the best part of the entire segment, even with the Rascals, because they're like, we could brought the stuff. Hey, Jake, give him the stuff. Or hey, Cody, give him the stuff. Yeah, I should give him the stuff. And they're just like...
They were so excited about it.
I feel like this is like every kid in lunch, in the lunch period, who didn't have someone to sit with, were all brought together at one table, and everyone's way too excited to be there because they just want to be friends with people. So I love it. I love everything about this segment. It was fantastic. And the Rascals are just they're so good. They're so good on camera. I wish the Impact production was a little bit better, because I feel like they would really look like stars with a little bit of a makeover. And maybe, if their arenas looked like arenas and not like they just found a slap together black pad in the back and like, hey, we'll throw that down and act like it's a cushion. Really? You can still see the floor. It's linoleum. Thanks, Dick. What'd you think of the Treehouse segment?
I enjoyed it. It was. You're right. It was a fun little segment. It wasn't too long. It was nice and short. It just gave you those nice little snippets of each of each tag team and what they're kind of about. And those are the things that we've been talking about for the longest time, is that wrestling is missing more of those, and that we're not getting these character developments. Like, it's one thing to have the wrestler go out in the ring and cut this big long promo about who they are, what they do, and all this stuff. But it's different to actually just have them in the back interacting with other people and just doing what they do.
Mm-hmm.
That's the difference between, like, that's what makes a good movie director, is not giving all this big preamble. It's just, here's what this character does, and this, just watching what this character does explains who they are.
Mm-hmm.
So we definitely need more of that in the world of wrestling today.
I concur.
You concur, Doc?
Why not just concur? So one of the things I will say about this episode, I skipped the Havoc Madison Rayne match. No interest.
That's fine.
But the one thing I will say is when Madison Rayne isn't trying to do her gimmick on commentary, she's very insightful.
Yes, she is. She is a lot more insightful on Callis.
Yes, she goes into detail. She highlights certain examples of issues that a wrestler is dealing with, or she puts over certain people's qualities and charisma, and she even does a really great job selling Tessa Blanchard or putting her over, I should say, in the main event. The one thing is, though, Havoc's not very good.
Yeah.
So if we can avoid having to watch her matches, I'm going to.
Mm-hmm. Well, and I will also say about Masson on commentary is that I like what she's doing on commentary. I could do without Josh trying to goad her into being the typical heel commentator.
Mm-hmm.
Because we don't need that. And especially after the Havoc match, they were definitely trying to pull that out of her. And it's like, no, just, we don't need that. We are perfectly fine with having two face commentators, or even two somewhat unbiased commentators.
Exactly.
We don't need the face heel commentator duo. That's a shtick that doesn't need to stay alive.
That's a shtick that worked twice, and it worked twice because it was paired with best friends. Not Gordon Solie, Gorilla Monsoon and Bobby Heenan, and then Jim Ross and Jerry Lawler. They were both legitimate best friends in real life.
Mm-hmm.
They
had that great dynamic.
Exactly. Otherwise, you just let someone be who they are, and then let the commentary flow from that, and have someone be who they are, but make sure that person is a very analytical person. That's one of the reasons why I am still baffled that they have Josh Matthews on commentary instead of Matt Stryker. Matt Stryker puts pro wrestling into the context of a baseball game. He makes it a story. He puts ambiance. He infuses, the accoutrements that turn, a regular July baseball game into the night your son becomes a fan for life. It's one of those monumental nuances that so few people can actually pull off. So I would like to see Stryker replace Matthews. Now, the thing is, Matthews constantly gets put over by people in Impact as being a very hard worker and very relevant backstage beyond just the realm of commentary. So I don't feel like it's that big of a deal to take him off commentary, because apparently, he does more work outside of commentary anyway. Stryker needs the work.
Yeah.
So use him.
Yeah, and Josh Matthews, like, the only time I really liked Josh Matthews was, oddly enough, when he was doing commentary with Matt Stryker.
Yeah. Yes. Both in WWE and in Impact when they did the Lucha Underground crossover show.
Yeah. So but Josh has never. Josh Matthews, for all the times I feel like he likes to take little jabs at his time working at the WWE a lot, but even without working at the WWE, he still does the same stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So it's it's a little hypocritical there, Josh, because all he does is talk about little like quote unquote backstage gossip and stuff on Twitter and all this other shit. He doesn't. The most he calls the match is he will do back and forth they go and ooh, he'll do that several times in the match. It's like riveting.
But he said ooh. That's so
riveting
good.
Stuff.
So good. So I would definitely make the call for Stryker to be put on commentary instead of Matthews.
Yes.
We then get a Tessa Eddie segment, which whatever. We then got Ken Shamrock with Jimmy Jacobs. Apparently he's all like, "Hey, I'm gonna beat up the Sammy," and then Sammy starts fucking with the lights, and Shamrock's like, "I know who that is. I'm gonna go get him since you guys ain't doing your job." And like this entire segment is irrelevant because it's whatever. But the reason why I'm talking about it and not skipping over it like the Eddie and Tessa and Havoc and Madison match is because there was a Archibald Peck sighting.
There was?
So when Jimmy and Eddie and when Jimmy and Shamrock are talking, and Shamrock gets up and he's like, I'm gonna go handle Sammy myself, and he rips open the door. You see a bearded bald guy kind of run after Shamrock.
Mm-hmm.
That's Archibald Peck.
Oh damn!
Oh damn! Archie, you got the. It's fantastic. You have the man who created mixed martial arts, the legend himself, the guy who went to Pancrase and won all those tournaments and beat up all the UFC legends in mixed martial arts, and then some guy named Shamrock.
I knew that's what you were going
I
for.
know it's such a telegraph joke,
but it works.
I mean, it's not like last week. What did I get you with last week? Oh yeah, the Sal Bandini, the Sal Bandini Vice. Oh my god! Oh, that was funny. Last week we were talking about the Chris Benoit Vice stuff. And I was like, hey, Zach, did you ever hear about WCW sending a bunch of wrestlers to go beat up a trainer? He's like, what? No. I'm like, yeah, Vice is going to cover it. I'm like, yeah, it was a few years ago, right before WCW closed. A bunch of guys beat him up. I think the trainer's name was Sal Bandini. And Zach lost his shit. Because Sal Bandini is the trainer from WCW's movie Ready to Rumble. Yep, and he got beat up by Perry Saturn and Sid Vicious. Wasn't there a third? I always feel like there was a third one.
It was who the fuck was? I want to say it was.
He beat up
Buff
Saturn
Bagwell,
and Sid.
Too.
Was it Buff? I know he beat up Sid and Saturn because they're sitting there on the couch with ice packs on their necks, whimpering.
Mm-hmm.
But I also know Sal Bandini got beat up by someone. It may have been Jimmy King's son. Is that who?
I don't think so. I don't think Jimmy King's son did anything until like they brought him into the match at the end or something like that.
Talk about Vince Russo booking.
The Wikipedia only says Sid Vicious and Chris Saturn.
So maybe they got the upper hand on him eventually.
Yeah, numbers game, man.
Numbers game. So we then get OVE taking on Madman Fulton and Tommy Dreamer. Nope, that's not right. OVE with Madman Fulton versus Tommy Dreamer on Rhino. This is kind of one of those situations where we talked about before with Daga and Chris Bay. Dreamer and Rhino get the win over OVE clean, but Madman Fulton and OVE get the rub back when they beat him down post-match. I don't know if this was the way to go. I feel like OVE as a tag team's kind of been lost in the shuffle for a little while.
Yeah.
And it's not that I don't mind. Like, I'm fine with Rhino and Dreamer getting wins. But I feel like wins over OVE should come once in a great moon.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't feel like, a throwaway match in Impact is that great of a moon. Yeah. It's just my thought.
And, like, after the match, when Fulton came back out and they were beating down, OVE was beating down on Dreamer and Rhino. And Josh was out there doing his darndest, trying to put over the the OVE without Sammy is they're lost their leader. They're pathless. They're directionless. They're just on a rampage. It's just like, but this is exactly what they would be doing if Callahan was there. So it's not really working that well.
Yeah, you can't really put context over, or you can't really put subtext over context and expect us to believe it.
Yeah.
OVE's been kind of getting their asses kicked on the regular for about a year now.
Mm-hmm.
So, do something different.
Yeah. Oddly enough, as Sammy was going up, everyone else down.
Mm-hmm. We then get Rosemary looking to drain the soul out of a man.
Yes. So Rosemary is trying to go succubus.
I think that's fair.
Very interesting. But she's not just willing to take any soul. She's looking for the right one. She sends a couple people away. Drink this. It'll season your soul up real. She's looking for just the right one. And then comes Johnny Swinger.
I think the funniest part is, like, she's saying she's going to drain their soul, but I have a feeling she's going to drain it from between their legs.
Isn't that what a succubus does?
I mean, what was that line from Blade 3? Unlike most vampires, her fangs are in her vagina. So then Johnny Swinger comes up and she basically says, even you, despite my desires to have like all of this, mortal enjoyments or whatever, if I were to do anything with you, I'd never hear the end from the Valkyrie. Something to that effect.
Which is great.
Yeah, it's fantastic. Like what a shitbag thing to say. Johnny also puts over the idea that he's going to be bringing in a young buck, someone named M. Jackson, into the product for next week. Obviously, kind of a wink, wink, nod, nod, joke, joke. That's going to be Matt Jackson of the Young Bucks.
Mm-hmm.
But we all know that's not the case. So
yeah, I figure with Swinger being trapped in, he's gonna try and bring in like a fake Michael Jackson or some shit like that.
probably M. Jackson. Makes sense.
Yeah.
Then we get Kiera Hogan defeating Susie. Not much to say about that match. Then we get Michael Elgin berating the North, suggesting that they let him tag with them instead, and then imply that they're not that good and that he would make them better. That pisses off Ethan, and then Michael's like, use that anger. And Ethan's like, are you fucking stupid? So I don't know if they're like hinting at like a partnership between the three. I've been saying for a long time, restart Team Canada with these three bastards. But, no one wants to listen to me. Any thoughts on this one?
I liked it. I like this segment because I like that we have essentially like three heels that aren't like the little shitbag coward heels that are just got down from each other. Now, granted, when you stand Michael Elgin up next to Ethan Page and Josh Alexander, it doesn't look like he's the biggest guy. But Michael Elgin has also been put as this guy that will go out there and hospitalize you and be happy to do so. So I like that nobody kind of backed down in that segment. Josh Alexander was the first one to get in Elgin's face. Ethan kind of was like, "Okay, let's calm down. We'll beat down Tessa and Eddie for you, so you can get the easy win at Rebellion, and we'll all be good." And then Elgin made some snide comment that pissed off Ethan, and I liked it. I liked that segment.
I'm pretty I'm pretty with you with that. Elgin's not a very tall guy, but he's a very thick guy.
Yes.
So that does help. As far as the segment goes, it works. Put everyone over. Got everything going.
Mm-hmm.
Fantastic. We then get Tennille Dashwood. She's back. She says that Jordan Grace has lost the plot, and she intends on facing off with Taya next week. It's implied that if Tenille wins, that she might be added to the Full Metal Mayhem match, but that's not overtly implied. Just kind of how it feels.
It's that's the problem with not having actual management.
What do you mean?
Like, I mean, like not actual like on air management, where it's like, because basically without like the general manager or the commissioner or whoever the fuck, pretty much anything could just happen.
Mm-hmm.
People would just make matches with each other. It's just whatever.
No, I completely agree. You don't need a heel GM. You just need a GM.
No, in fact, I would prefer if you didn't. The whole like the heel running the company thing, as I think we talked about this before, is like I heard Cornette talk about it like a few months ago or something. How the WWE how the heels have been running the WWE for the past 20 years,
Mhm.
and that's just absurd. That you would have the people running the company as the most vile, hated people in the company, but you're supposed to have people like your company. It's just so backwards. We don't need heels running the show, at least not in the long term.
Yeah, I completely agree. Then we get the main event. It's Tessa and Eddie versus the North for the tag team titles. The North get the win after Tessa refuses tag in Eddie. Kind of comes out of nowhere, but it makes perfect sense for how Tessa's portrayed and how she's generally viewed by the norm. She comes off as very unlikable, and she shows herself to be very unlikable. And it's kind of one of those situations where they had the match in hand. The North goes over, and Eddie asks her why, and she's like, "I know what you really want." And I'm like, "What you really, really want? So tell him what he wants. What he really, really wants."
And then you hated yourself for the rest of it.
I did not, because I actually like that. That was a good transition. Eddie ends up leaving, and Tessa's kind of just sitting there. I thought there was going to be a little smoochy oochie, because she's like, I don't know, what does Eddie really want? Does he want the title, or does he want the champion? That would have worked better if I said, does he want the championship or does he want the champion? I digress, though. So he ends up leaving, and Elgin shows up, starts beating up on Tessa, and Eddie's like, you didn't want my help before, so you're on your own, lady. And Elgin hits an Elgin bomb on Tessa, and that's how we end the show. Thoughts on the main event?
The ending was, it did kind of come out. It was kind of weird, but it also did kind of keep the story kind of going. It actually was a match with a story in it. Is Tessa going to trust Eddie? Because that's the commentary actually did put that over throughout the matches, that Eddie's a great tag team wrestler. 5-time tag team champion in Impact. He's not a problem. Is Tessa going to actually work with Eddie? Is the other question. We found out at the end that Tessa wants the spotlight and Tessa wants to do it on her own. And, there's a time and place. This was not the time nor the place. You done fuck. So it does have an interesting effect in that it does kind of further the idea that Tessa isn't. It doesn't help Tessa's likability, which is an interesting thing that they're trying to do, her being the champion and the face of the company, and you're kind of going in this route. Like, it makes sense from a character standpoint. It really makes sense from a business standpoint. So I like what they did. I like it because it told a story, and it was a story that they had kind of planted the seed of from last week or the week before, whatever that was. So I like what they did. It might have some interesting repercussions from
It very well could. So, with all that said, Is there anything else on the docket that has caught your attention that you want to comment on before we sign off for the night? Because I don't have anything else to mention.
Well then, no, I don't have anything for myself.
So you're joining us tomorrow.
Correct. What issues are we reading? Oh, Tell Boys.
It's what did we do last week?
Good question.
Let's see. I guess I'll look it up. You know, it would help if you listened to the show.
Eh.
Because I mentioned it.
Yeah.
Dick. Let's see. We are. I think we're doing the Big Ride, and then the miniseries, The Butcher, the Baker, and the Candlestick Maker.
Okay.
So that's what we're doing. So the Big Ride is 56, 57, 58, and 59. And the Butcher, Baker, Candlestick Maker is 1 through 6. So 10 issues total.
Okay.
Then we're
Sounds good.
Then we're on to the final ones.
Mm-hmm.
Because after the Butcher, Baker, and Candlestick Maker, we only have 5, 10, 11 issues left to go. So there you go.
There you go.
All right, so we'll address all that tomorrow. Then we're on to Friday. We still haven't heard from Swish yet, so I don't know what we're doing for the Friday show. Who knows? So realnerdcorp.com, RealNerdCorp.com. We're on Twitter at NERDCorp. We are on Instagram at RealNerdCorp, RealNerdCorp. Twitch.tv/WrestlingUnderground. We are on Podbean at realnerdcorp.podbean.com or by downloading the Podbean app and downloading it to your mobile device and searching Real Nerd Corp on the app. We're also on YouTube at youtube.com/Wrestling Underground. You can also find all our podcasts there. And of course, as always, all our podcasts go up on the website at realnerdcorp.com. Zach, you can be found on what? Instagram and DeviantArt at Radiance2020, RADIANCE2020.
You got it.
As well as finding me on Twitter at Chad Nerdcorp, ChadNerdCorp, as well as on Instagram at Chad's Photo Hut. Yeah. So Zach, myself, and Mark Screen will be on the air tomorrow night, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, over at twitch.tv/Comic and GameCorp. That's twitch.tv/Comic and GameCorp. So go check us out live tomorrow as we talk about The Boys and whatever other comic booky news we can find to fill out the show. Last week we had a bunch. This week, not so much. So with all that being said, we are done for the night. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for checking us out. And remember to always watch more wrestling. Thackeray, you're up.
I don't have anything, Woody. Stay away from succubi.